This is 8 Minutes of Awesome. I'm Jennifer Lipsky. Doug Upchurch gives each moment his full heart and soul. And in doing so, Doug sees the special magic within each day. Speaking with me right now is Doug Upchurch. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me today.
It's my pleasure.
So, Doug, tell me a bit about when you step into each day. And, there's lots of things that you have going on scheduled in your life.
Yeah.
How is it that you're able to slow down and see what's before you?
Well, I've had an interesting life in that I've been very much an entrepreneur and business person for most of my life, and I would say I self-identified that way. And my focus has always been about getting things done and making things happen. And what I realized, especially over the last little while, last few years, but even more so the last year, that um, my life needed to find a place to pause. One of my favorite quotes is something I heard from Deepak Chopra. He said that life doesn't happen in the notes of music. Life happens in the space between the notes of the music. And so when you think about the space between the notes, that's where life really occurs. And so I began to realize, what's the space between the notes that is my life? And so I kind of started to really question myself and challenge myself, where is that space? Whether it's the moment between meetings, whether it's the moment between phone calls, or even um, just noticing something that was happening outside of myself, even like something that was happening in the garden, or a dog that walked by, or something that a friend would do or a family member would do. I kind of began to realize that I had been going through life not noticing, not pausing, not really paying as much attention to the rest, to the space, as I was to the notes. And so I began over the last year to really start to kind of notice beauty and find peace. That's kind of my mantra right now, and kind of something I'm a little um, bit of a broken record on, but I don't mind it at all. It's like, just notice beauty and find peace every day. And so it was about finding that space between the notes for me. And so that's really the mindset I bring into my life. What's really powerful is I've allowed flowers and plants and nature to be the reminder. So every time I see a flower that's in bloom, or a tree, or something that just looks beautiful, I just know that that's a time to pause. And as cliche as it sounds, and trust me, I know how cliche it sounds, I stop and smell the roses. I stop and smell the flowers. And it's quite profound to go from a space where you just walk by and say, oh yeah, they're lovely, they're pretty, but to really allow them to be, for me, a message or reminder to just pause, to just be in that space of moment. And where it gets really profound or really powerful, actually, for me, is when I bring that same pause, not just to my life, but to my relationships. But that's another story altogether. So,
Well, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful reminder to most literally to pause and to stop and smell the roses.
yeah.
And as cliche as it may sound, it is profoundly beautiful and important.
Yeah. Well, I think the Earth, I think Mother Earth, I think that the universe provides us these things as symbols. And if we think about watching a garden grow, watching flowers grow, from one day to the next, even, and noticing that, it totally. I kind of wonder. I'm not sure how Mary, in the children's nursery rhyme, Mary could have been so quite contrary if she was watching her garden grow, because it pauses everything. How could she not be calm, be more relaxed, more laid back? And I think the symbol of a flower, that opening of one's being, of sharing of oneself, sharing of one's beauty, of one's, kind of releasing the joy, releasing the essence of who we are into the world, requires a pace of life that is, for me at least, was different than I had been keeping to. And so it's allowing myself to slow down enough that I can release the essence that is my life, and really experience the essence of my life.
Mm, Yeah, and it really reminds me of how we all unfold, just like that flower blooming.
Absolutely.
All of us unfold and expand and grow in that same way with the sunshine, with love and care and attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that in the professional work that you do,
Hmm.
you help others get kind of reconnected with themselves, their kind of soulful self, to really make
Yeah.
that authentic connection, but in like a practical way. But a lot of that requires, deep listening and dialogue.
Mhm.
And I would like you to share your thoughts on how to really deeply connect with another person when having a conversation to really achieve that.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that's so becoming so much I'm becoming so much more aware of in our society, and a lot of the work I do is with individuals in the context of work. So I am often working with leaders and business people who are in business every day, helping them have better relationships in their workplace. But the thing that I found so interesting and so compelling to me is that we all have really the same desires, the same wants, the same needs. We want to be seen, be valued, and know that we've made a difference. So there's a level, the way I've kind of described it is we want to be witnessed. We want to have been seen, that I mattered in this project I'm on, this job I'm in, this task I'm in, that I really mattered to somebody else, that what I did made a difference. And whether it's that I want to feel that I mattered because of my smarts and my intelligence or my contribution or my caring and my affection, whatever it may be, we have different personal needs. I want to know that I mattered. And the challenge is that in our society, I think more and more we've lost sight of how to have a conversation where we can really give that to someone else. It's funny, one of the things that we often do in our work in team building and leadership development is all about slowing people down long enough to have a conversation. Just slowing them down to say, okay, so really, what are you saying? If I go in and do a conflict resolution or some kind of mediation, it's often the misunderstanding is because there was no space in between the notes for those two individuals. They had gone already to the end of the song for both of them and had not paused to listen to what each other was saying, to hear each other's story. So I began really thinking about how dialogue and the principles of dialogue could be a spiritual practice, right? That we could create a way to help someone know that they mattered. Um, I use the term witness very deliberately. In many faith traditions, the word of witnessing is sharing your story, but it's also a definition is that it's having my story be seen, be heard. And it's this interplay between these two individuals that truly, in the interaction, in the intersection of that authentic sharing of one story, the other, not only am I changed for being heard, but the other who's doing the hearing is also changed. And it's really about empathic listening for me, a very common concept, but it's about listening not to respond, listening not to do anything really other than just to be with someone, to witness them, to be in that space with them to hear their story. And so one of the things that I try to do in my work, and I encourage others to do, is sometimes people don't want you to have an answer. Sometimes they don't want you to have the solution. Sometimes they just want to be heard. They want to be valued. They want to know that what they said or what they felt or thought made a difference to someone. And it's funny, one of my favorite phrases that I use all the time, and it may sound very trite, but it's that, when people tell me something, just to say to them, you know what, that makes sense to me why you would feel that way. That makes sense to me how that would happen. It's all of a sudden, because I think so often when we don't share what's going on in our heads, we begin to think we're crazy. And the reality is we're not. We just haven't been heard. And when someone hears us and says, you know what, it makes sense to me why you're feeling that. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to have the same perspective. I don't have to have any other attachment other than knowing what you've just told me. It makes sense to me why you would feel that way. That person has just gotten a sense of validation, a sense of, wow, I get it. Someone gets me, and that experience is so rare in our society right now of really being heard, really being witnessed in that way. So when I think about the work I do with people in organizations, it's about helping them know how to have conversations, how to pause, how to say, okay, let's hear each other's story. I did a team building for a very senior global exec team about 3 months ago, in which there was massive conflict. And it was around two new team members that had come in. And I literally told them, I said, you guys thought we were coming in and I was going to be doing some big team building workshop, but here's what I want you to do. Each of you have 30-minute conversations with the other all day long. That's all you're doing. Just talk. And all you need to do is share your story and ask questions of clarification. You don't get to respond. You don't get to do anything except make sure you hear each other. And that team had the biggest breakthrough that they'd ever had just by having dialogues. And they realized that, okay, it wasn't that so-and-so was out to get them or so-and-so was out to do something, damaging. It was that they were scared, or they were nervous, or they were overly excited about a project, but it was not with malintent. It was about really and what they needed was to just hear the other story. So it's about being in a place of seeking understanding so that we can really see how much we're all in common, how much we all have in common versus where we're different. That's really what in the end dialogue really produces, is this understanding of who we are and how we are the same rather than how we are different.
Yes. And I'd like you to discuss the metaphor of our intersecting as a
Yeah.
tapestry.
Well, imagine anyone who might be even listening to this video right now, or any of the videos that are part of this wonderful series, is that someone will have an opportunity to hear something, and their thread will weave through your tapestry. For example, with you and me, Jennifer, my thread has woven a little bit through your tapestry in this conversation, and vice versa. And it may be that in the course of our relationship that thread might cut for a little while. More of my tapestry gets created, and maybe we come back into each other's lives. And the thread may be really tightly woven in so that it will never leave. It will never be replaced. It will never pull loose. In some cases, it may be just loose so that later that thread slips out because it served its purpose. And what's left is this beautiful looseness in the fabric. Whatever it is, the idea of a tapestry is that we have an opportunity, and if we think of this way, think of dialogue this way, that is, that we can intersect with one another's lives in such a way that we can both be changed. By hearing my story, by hearing someone else's story, you're giving them a chance to weave their thread through your tapestry. And you all know that you've had experiences. I can think of hundreds of experiences that I've had where my life will never be the same because of that one conversation that I had. It may not even be someone who's still in my life, but that one conversation I will never forget. Or that one experience that I had with that person. Those are the things that make up the beauty of our tapestries that are our lives. And so it's finding ways to be that thread that makes an impact in someone else's tapestry, and to open ourselves up to allow someone else to weave their thread into our tapestry as well.
It's beautiful. And I got all choked up. I would like to know, Doug, if there was a message, one message right now from your heart that you would like to share. What would that message be?
Oh, wow. So hard to pick one. I think in the context of dialogue, the context of witnessing one another, of sharing with one another, it's realizing that shame doesn't serve. And what I mean by that is that so often we're afraid to share our stories. We're afraid to speak our truth. We're afraid to say, we let fear in so many ways, or shame, dictate what we're willing how we're willing to speak up, what we're willing to say. And what I have learned is that shame in that way does not serve us. It does not serve us to hold that back. Marianne Williamson's very famous quote of, who are you to be small? Who are you, who are you not to be big, right? You're here to make a difference in the world. And I've butchered the quote. I apologize, Marianne. But the idea is that we're here for a purpose. And shame keeps us from sharing our true essence. And the reality is, that's what we're here to do. The rose doesn't say, I can't be a full big rose because I can't blossom and unfold and let that come out. Like it has no programming inside of its being to do anything but open up fully and release the essence of who it is into the world. That's its purpose. And equally, I believe that's our purpose. So my message is that don't allow shame to keep you locked up in that bud of a flower that doesn't allow your own essence to be released, your own truth, your own story, your own story. So allowing yourself to be fully you in this world.
Beautiful message, that unabashed unfolding.
Yeah.
Doug Upchurch, thank you so much for sharing this time on 8 Minutes of Awesome with me.
It's my pleasure, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.